Exploring Singapore is no joke. But it's been super amazing figuring out the transit system and also seeing the contrast between like the skyscrapers and the buildings that I feel like have probably been there for 100 years. So today, what I did is I went to Chinatown and then I went to Little India. And both of them are kind of like these, like I said, smaller buildings, 3, 4 stories tall. Um, it's cool because they've restored a lot of it. So it's almost like they have like the same shutters coming out on the outside and it's all painted. Uh, looks kind of colloquial. I don't know if that's the right word. But yeah, it looks like they're trying to restore it so it looks like it did back in the day. Um, so what I did was I Google mapped like a spot in Chinatown called the Buddha Tooth Relic. And it's essentially a temple that they have set up for Buddha that's protecting a tooth that they feel came from the Buddha himself. I think I'm saying that right. Anyway, when I do stuff like this, I map it out, meaning I just find the general direction. So I start walking in that direction. And then what I like to do is just take side streets or um, like I'll stay on the main street, but then I'll try to, if the main street and like another kind of side street veer in the same direction, I tend to take the side street if it looks cool. So today with Chinatown, you know, it's like Main Street and you have skyscraper, and then you had this little side street where you had the 2 story, 4 story buildings, and then a bunch of shops and restaurants and cafes in those 2 story buildings. So it was cool to just meander and kind of go with the flow of the streets. And it ended up actually, I kind of veered the wrong way. It ended up putting me towards the bay. So again, when I'm just kind of going with the flow and navigating, I got back in Google Maps, looked for where it was, and then like changed my direction, changed course. So I got there, took a bunch of photos. I actually had to wear a sarong inside because it is a temple, it is a holy place for them. And they did have sarongs that people could borrow to wear. I did notice that. So I brought a backpack today. I put a long sleeve shirt in it. I put a sarong in it just in case I found myself at places that needed more coverage. Um, yeah, then after that temple, I went and just sat at a cafe and kind of people watched. I found what's called like a hawker center. So it's this building with all these food stands inside of it. And all the little food stands are kind of like stacked one right next to each other. And there's tables everywhere. You bus your own table. It was really cool to see. I wasn't hungry, so I didn't eat anything, but I did catch, I took a couple photos and I'll put those in here so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. After that, I wanted to go to Little India. So this time I found an MRT train station and I went underground and found which track I needed to go to get to Little India. because that would have been, if I had walked from Chinatown, I think it was like not too bad, maybe 45-minute walk, but it's Singapore, it's hot, it's humid. I decided to take public transportation. And again, I mentioned this in my other video, but public transport is super easy here. So I took the train to Little India, came out, kind of found out where I was on the map, used Google Maps to start meandering towards this one temple. I want to say it's a Hindu temple, but of course it's under construction. I took a few photos, but it doesn't do it justice because there's just like scaffolding up and then, it's covered with covering so you can't see inside. Uh, so that was disappointing because, it's supposed to be a really cool temple. But like I said, I did get a few photos of some of the intricate like design and artwork of it. So instead, I started heading towards the Sultan Mosque. Now, Little India felt different than Chinatown in that I was wearing a skirt. It comes about mid-thigh on me, which I'm short. So, uh, if I wear anything too long, it just makes me look even shorter. But these skirts I feel like are, they're not like short shorts. So it's like mid-thigh shorts and then the skirt hangs over it. And I had a t-shirt on. So I wasn't scantily clad. However, I noticed in Little India, a lot of the women and a lot of the men were wearing more traditional clothing. And so, in that sense, a lot of the women were wearing long sleeves, long skirts, long dresses. And so I did feel a little out of place. A few men gave me some looks, but it wasn't threatening. It was more, I just felt like I was dressed, I don't want to say disrespectfully, but just, yeah, I just wasn't dressed quite as they were. Now, as I walked towards things that were like a points of interest, like the mosque, um, there were more tourists, women in shorts, women in tank tops, um, sundresses. So I definitely wasn't super out of place, but there was just a few side streets I took on the way to the mosque that I felt a little underdressed. When I got to the mosque, I just automatically put on my sarong and my long sleeve, and then I headed inside. However, they stopped pretty much everybody at the door, and he's like, they made us put on these like the best way I can describe it is like a Harry Potter like robe. So it's a robe. It goes all the way to the floor for me. There's a hood on it. The man told me I didn't need to wear the hood. So I will drop a picture in here because I look so funny. Um, the inside of the mosque was beautiful. Uh, I have to say, we visited a mosque in Cairo, Egypt, which I feel like, I don't want to say it's more beautiful, but it's just maybe grander than this one. But this one was definitely cool. I feel like the outside of this one really stood out. And there was a couple little side streets that led to this mosque. And again, it was like two-story, three-story buildings, all of them painted really cool. Um, the painted shutters open on the windows, like on the second floor. And restaurants, coffee shops, like all on these little side streets leading to the mosque. Um, so that was neat. At this point, I was really hot. And I even went into a 7-Eleven and got a coconut water, and I stood in there for a while deciding just because the AC felt glorious. But I decided I would head back to the room only because I was hot. I needed to use the restroom, and I kind of felt like I saw everything. I'm sure I missed a few things, and that's what's hard. Uh, when you don't have a tour guide or you don't have someone local that like knows all the side streets and the ins and the outs and the artwork and the architecture. So I know I'm sure I missed a few things, but that's just kind of how it is when you're taking yourself on your own tour. I did use Google. I used ChatGPT just to kind of help me navigate so that I could kind of get as much of the sites as I could. But again, I also like to just, if I know the general direction is that way, then I will, if there's kind of a cool looking side street, I will meander onto the side streets and things like that. But overall, it was a great experience. Singapore feels, it's super clean. It feels safe. I know it like is said to be one of the safest places, I think, in the world. And then the other thing I thought about as I was getting set up for this video is that I have not seen one stray dog or cat since I've been here, like at all. And I didn't even think about it as I was walking around. I actually thought about it when I was sitting down to do this video because Thailand, Bali, Hawaii, all these places, Rome had cats. And I know there's tons of locals in all of those places that are trying to uh, spay and neuter uh, to keep the populations at bay. But it's so interesting because I have not seen one stray animal here. So I'm kind of curious. I'm going to do a little research and see what that's all about. Uh, so yeah, that's my story for today.